Okay. I'll call to order the City of Wilsonville Council meeting for May 6th, 2019 at 7:02 p.m. May I have a roll call, please?
Counselor Stevens?
Here.
Counselor Lehan?
Here.
Council President Ackerval?
Here.
Mayor Knapp and Counselor West are excused.
Will the audience please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Cut me off.
Thank you. Is there a motion on the order of agenda?
Your Honor, I move that we approve the order of agenda as submitted. Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 3-0. And I will mention there's copies available at the side of the room if anyone would like to get that. First up is communications, and our first item is, let's see, the 2019 Oregon Urban and Community Forestry Award. And do we have a rep? Okay, excellent. If you would come to the mic and introduce yourself.
All right. Good evening, Council President Ackerville and members of the council. I'm here tonight with a couple folks that represent the Oregon Community Trees. My name is Carrie Rappel, Natural Resources Manager, so I'll just let them introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Samantha Wolf, President of Oregon Community Trees.
I'm Morgan Holen, Board Member, Oregon Community Trees.
Good? Okay.
And yeah, do you have a presentation that you would like
Very
to make
brief,
so we can make an
3 to
honor?
5
Yeah.
minutes, if
Okay.
that's okay.
Yep.
So, hello, everybody. Thank you very much for having us today. For over 20 years, Oregon Community Trees, or OCT, and the Oregon Department of Forestry have recognized people and organizations who do often the unsung work of improving our communities through their community forestry efforts. Award recipients are nominated by Oregonians eager to recognize the important contribution of their neighbors and colleagues to urban trees and their forests. In celebration of Oregon's urban and community forests, the 2019 Oregon Urban and Community Forestry Awards are being presented to inspirational individuals and organizations for promoting tree planting and awareness and care, engaging citizens, and about their urban trees and forests and protecting their natural resource. So in mind, I'll hand it off to Morgan.
All right. So we're here tonight to present one of those awards, and it's going to go to Carrie Rappel, the city's Natural Resources Program Manager. As a local consulting arborist doing work in Wilsonville myself and a Wilsonville resident, I know firsthand that Carrie's leadership and accomplishments in advancing urban and community forestry are inspirational. Natural resource management is more than just a job to Carrie. He has a passion for natural resources, a friendly disposition which really helps to engage the citizens, and his contributions have improved the quality of life here in Wilsonville. In 2017, Carrie was involved in starting the city's Bee Stewards program, focusing on improving pollinator habitat, decreasing pesticide use, and educating the public on pollinator environmental needs. The Bee Stewards program has earned Wilsonville Bee City USA recognition, and Wilsonville is one of only 7 Oregon cities currently designated as Bee City USA. Day to day, Carrie plays a significant role in managing the city's urban forests by protecting upland wildlife habitat and riparian areas through administration of the city's significant natural resources overlay zone. He is a proven leader in the city's natural resources department in balancing the need for stormwater maintenance in the right-of-way with street trees, and this has included innovative designs and new subdivisions. In partnership with Friends of Trees, Carrie helps to restore land in the community over many years by planting trees and developing pollinator habitat. He's also worked with farmers and their goats to abate invasives throughout the community. Carrie's been instrumental in creating passages for wildlife, and this is part of the city's capital project work, and specifically as it relates to road construction. And Oregon Community Trees has visited some of those wildlife passage projects. It's really, truly impressive. So Carrie, we want to thank you for all your work and especially your dedication to urban and community forestry in Oregon. On behalf of Oregon Community Trees and the Oregon Department of Forestry, we are honored to present a 2019 Oregon Urban and Community Forestry Award for outstanding leadership in promoting urban and community forestry to Carrie Rappold. Congratulations, Carrie.
Thanks, Morgan.
Councilor Ackerval, would you like?
Whole council go up?
Yeah, please come down.
That'd be great. Thank you for reading my mind.
Every single one of us.
Yeah, it's the one time you get to.
One time I guess I
get
don't
to
have
sit,
to,
be
yeah.
in the front. Let's see. Composition, okay, that looks like it'll work. All right. 1, 2, 3, I'm gonna take a couple more. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, we're doing the cha-cha here now. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time, appreciate it.
But wait, if you could remain.
Not yet.
I believe there's some members of council here that may want to make
Questions or comments?
a comment on this item, as we all feel very grateful and proud for the work that you do
Thank
on
you.
behalf of Wilsonville.
Yes, I was going to ask, so what year did you start at Wilsonville?
I started in October of 2001.
2001, see. Well, my recollection is, no one had that position before you. No. See, we invented that position for you. Well, we invented that position because we decided that would be a good position to have, but it was really quite controversial at the time as, not really necessary thing. But we were fortunate enough to get Carrie in that position, and he, of course, essentially created the position over time and worked with Public Works, worked with planning, engineering, all kinds of other departments that I think it worked out very well in the long run to have that position, and of course to have Carrie in that position, to be able to pull together all the many different ways that natural resources intersect with other departments when people need advice, assistance, or whatever, besides the individual projects that you take on. So you've left big shoes for anyone to follow, but you're the only one we've ever had in this position, and have proven the position to be important to the city. So thank you.
So much.
Yeah, it is a very valuable position. It's so important for this community, especially with all the parks and open space we have here. And you're probably not aware, but later on our agenda is we're going to be approving some funding for different community enhancement projects. And Carrie came and applied to that committee for an education, a stormwater education program at one of our elementary schools. And, we'll be awarding that $10,000 to fund that project. We'll be working with, I think it's K through 5th.
Yes, it's
K through
Boonesbury
5th.
Primary.
Yeah, Boonesbury Primary, so all classes, all grade levels, to teach them about stormwater management, and then actually go out on the school grounds and around the area. It's near open space, and talk in the field about stormwater management, so, right?
Yep.
So, it's ongoing. The ideas are just never ending. So we
you.
appreciate so much all the work you do for us.
Well, I appreciate all of you too. I just want to note that Councilor Stevens has been working incredibly hard to control Laurel in Memorial Park.
Once a week, I go
Yeah,
down there
you're-
and
you're doing an amazing
chop
job.
away.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm creating big piles for you guys to pick up. Thanks, yeah.
That's awesome.
It's been fun for me to do that now that I have time. Yeah, so, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. It's been a pleasure serving the city. I was going to mention that my first planting event was back in the spring of 2002, so those trees are now going on 17 years. And just amazing to see, what we've been able to accomplish working with Friends of Trees and all the other wonderful partners and organizations. So it's always a pleasure to come to work and to think of new ideas and to have the opportunity to try those ideas. Wilsonville's an incredible place to work, so I really appreciate it.
Yeah, great.
Well, thank you. Your work makes the city of Wilsonville a wonderful place to live, so there's many, many people that appreciate what you're doing. Thank you.
All right.
Excellent.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, and thank you for being here as well. Yeah. And bestowing this award. Yes, exactly. Thank you. Okay, let's see. Next up, we have the Police Department Annual Report with our police chief. Thank
Good evening,
you.
everyone, President, Counselor, all else in attendance. I'm Robert Werps, Chief of Police for the City of Wilsonville. Let me get this going here. Okay, this is the 2018 Annual Review. I want to preface it with a few things. One is that there's a lot of numbers in here, a lot of data. I like looking at data. But there's some dangers with that. It's really a report of what has happened. And I often get asked, why? Why is that? What created this? What caused that? And those are, scientifically speaking, you'd have to do an independent study on each one of those line items. And so that can be a little bit tricky. I can talk a little bit anecdotally about sometimes what, from my experience, I see can cause the change in some of these numbers. As a reminder, the city contracts police services with the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office. Admittedly, I'm biased because I think it's a great thing. And here's some of the reasons why. It creates a real depth of service. There's a lot of things that we offer for service that are great, such as we run right along the Willamette River here, so we do have divers and access to boats should we need them for emergency purposes. We have access to aircraft should we need that for aerial views. That's right here out of Aurora. We have a canine program that currently has 5 canines, and many times they find themselves here in the city and sometimes actually get assigned here too. We have a SWAT team for when we get into those really difficult situations and need to navigate those. We also have bomb technicians who on occasion will respond out here onto suspicious packages. It just so happens that both of the qualified technicians are actually assigned here to the city. We also have a full accident reconstruction team so that if we have to come in and do a really detailed analysis of a severe crash, we have the capability to do so. We also have access to search and rescue, and normally one would think that's for the mountain or someone lost in the woods, but what people don't know as readily is that that's also for lost children and walk-away Alzheimer's patients. They have a very good skill set in understanding how fast people like that can travel and some things that they might be headed towards, so we do use them for those cases. Some of the other things we have are a hostage negotiation team. In case we try to really talk our way out of it and de-escalate everything that we can. We also have a behavioral health unit, a partnership with, which I'm happy to report is here tonight, that'll present after me. That we've been national, the Sheriff's Office and Wilsonville Police have been really national leaders in this partnership. These clinicians are assigned to us full-time and do a lot of work here in the city with us. Those can be very difficult and sensitive to navigate. Mental health issues. And trauma intervention program, we have partnerships with agencies like this, which are volunteers who can come out and talk to people that have had a traumatic incident. Feel free to jump in with questions. I talk fast and I get to be like a juggernaut in some of these presentations, so feel free to cut me off if we got questions. Yeah, no, thanks. So here's the organizational chart, myself, and then we've got 3 supervisors that span throughout the 24 hours of the day. During the day, we have a motor officer, 3 patrol officers, a community service officer, school resource officer, and a detective. And these are all assigned 100% to the city 24 hours a day. We also in the afternoon have a traffic officer. That's an afternoon traffic car. We have 4 officers assigned to various shifts there, and then a graveyard sergeant and another 4 officers there. And that was the other thing I was going to mention earlier is that there's a lot of numbers on here, and it's easy to get, like I said, easy to get lost in those, but there's also a lot of people that are behind these numbers, so I always love to talk about the staff out here. So here we get into some of these numbers. Again, we do a 24-hour day service every day of the year, all the time. Last year we did 8,571 calls, and that breaks down. We can break that into month, 24 calls a day each hour. So it's almost a call an hour. It doesn't always pile up exactly like that. Sometimes they come in all at once. The actual reports were written were over 2,000 reports. Sometimes we can just go to a call and discuss it and offer some advice, mediate some things. Other times there's actually things that need to be documented. And we can see these are pretty expected upward trends as the population goes up in the city. Our call service tend to match that curve, and it's pretty steady. The calls by month, you can see that summertime is typically a busier time. That's fairly common for any agency. Pictured here is the 3 supervisors I discussed. Sergeant Ajir, he's a new father, and he's our night shift sergeant. Sergeant Eric Lee, he was also the detective out here previously and then promoted and worked here in the city, which is really cool. And Sergeant Ritter, he was our day shift sergeant, loves to coach baseball in his off time. These are the types of calls. I know this is very small and difficult to see, but these are included in your packet, and for anybody else watching on the television, these are available online if you want to look at them closer. I made notice some significant increases here. One of the things we did see, interestingly, was sadly, suicide attempts and mental health calls, and so that's interesting that BHU happens to be presenting today. We also saw an uptick in theft. You can see it's the number 2 highest call we have. We did see a significant spike, and I can tell you that those theft increases we saw were almost solely based on one crew that was working. We did finally get those folks, but the amount of damage they caused was shocking. Even with my 20 years on, it was amazing how much they had. We saw a slight increase in threat and harassment calls. Sometimes this is a neighbor dispute or domestics. Suspicious vehicles, I was actually pleased to see that because to me, that kind of resounds with the See Something, Say Something campaign we've had for a while. I believe people are keeping an eye out in their neighborhoods, looking around for suspicious vehicles and letting us know. Happy to check those out. Strangulation saw an increase. That's actually due. There was some change in case law last year too, so that doesn't surprise me that now we're looking for that more closely, and there's some legal mandatory arrest changes and some training that helped us ID that more readily. So I think that's what the cause was. Again, that's anecdotally. We did see significant decreases, gladly, in criminal mischief, drug complaints, runaway juveniles, animal complaints, happily in assaults, that's a big one, and then in disorderly conduct as well. Pictured here, our school resource officer, Jason Dolan, he actually came to us. He previously worked at the West Lynn Police Department as a detective, so he brings a great skill set there. Our community service officer, Julie Fanger, she's really probably the real chief of the department. She's the one who keeps everything running and the ship straight, so super happy to have her. Detective Corey Alexander, I did not have like a non-booking photo of that one. Apologies. But he comes to us a very, very experienced investigator. There's nothing that he hasn't investigated previously. He's been doing detective work for 10 years, so we're very fortunate to have someone with his skill set at our service. Here, this one, these are the actual crimes that we took reports on. There's a difference between crimes that are called into us and then crimes that we actually take reports on. Sometimes people call in a crime, and then once we kind of talk to them about it, we figure out it may not be. But these are kind of the crimes listed here. And there's nothing here that really shocks me in terms of differences. There's a little bit of increase, a little bit of decrease on some of these. But some of these are the more major crimes, and on the right, you'll see the other ones broken down. Pictured here, Joey Barros. He's been a long-time patrol officer here at the city. In fact, 8 years. That makes him the longest-standing patrolman we've had. That's him in a pizza cook-off with the fire guys there for fundraising. Officer Chris Thomas, he's one of our bomb technicians. And then Officer Brett Ethington, who came to us from Canby Police, also a detective. So again, we have really rich experience on our day-to-day patrol folks. I'm going to jump into traffic now because this is really important to the citizens. It's a topic of discussion quite frequently. When I first glanced at this, the blue bar you see up there is the amount of calls that came into us. And you can see we saw a significant increase. So I dug into that and found, it comforted me a little bit, because what I found was that there was quite a few that were Oregon State Police on the freeway, and then a great number of those are kind of the door dings in the parking lot. Like I got a dent, I don't know where I got it. I think it was here. There was a large number of those. But if we go down to the red line, we saw an increase of 20 from last year. And then we also have the intersections listed where these occur. None of those are surprising. That's typically where we see the most. What I'm happy to report is that our injury rate's very low, because I think when we express concern for crashes, what we're really worried about is the people getting hurt or injured. Fortunately, we saw a fairly low rate of that, and I'll have that on the next slide. Pictured here, Officer Tyler Van Wormer, that's our afternoon traffic car. He also does evening time DUI enforcement. Officer Justin Smith, so father of 4, so he's a busy man. He's also our other bomb technician, does some bicycle patrol for us. And then Officer Ben Toops, he's really been a great outreach specialist for us in terms of traffic and connecting with folks who have issues in their neighborhood, pictured there on the motorcycle. So here's the crashes broken down by hour. This should also come as no surprise. With the commutes, we see, the spikes in the morning commute and then a large spike in the afternoon. Anecdotally, I think, a long day at work, you get a little bit less attentive, a little exhausted, and so it kind of decreases our attention, I believe. And we do use this data a lot to move our resources around and pay attention to certain times in certain areas. You can see in the upper right, that kind of shows that it's really almost a 50-50 split of hit and runs. But a lot of these are your parking lot door ding type things. And then the other circle there, it shows that we have about a 10% injury rate, which is, given the number of crashes, is good. And a lot of those, none of those were life-threatening as of last year anyways. Pictured here, Officer Jake Jensen. He's also a captain in the Army National Guard. And also Officer Matt Brown. Got a little funny video of him there on a ring camera. He's also one of our specialists in the evening for DUI enforcement. And Officer Zach Kiersey came to us from the Corrections Division, which gives him a unique skill set in communicating with the folks out there. These are our traffic stops and citations. We see a big spike both in citations and stops. That's to be expected because we added a second traffic car last year, so those numbers coincide with that. You can see the types, and most of this stuff is moving violations, and then, as you can see, followed by other infractions. We also did quite a bit of work in truck enforcement, catching a lot of overweight trucks, does a lot of damage to the road, so we try to keep an eye on that as well. Pictured here, Officer Corey Hogg. He is currently deployed with the Air Force to the United Arab Emirates. Missing him right now. Officer Luke Johnson, also a veteran of the military service. Officer Kate Now Wilson, she's expecting, so we're all very excited about the new addition. And then Officer Beth Mayer, who came to us from the Washington County Sheriff's Office. So here's our community outreach, and this is one of my passions for the work. I really do love connecting with the public, and I encourage the troops to do that. Some of the pictures we see here in the top left is the tip a cop for Special Olympics. So we actually went and served food and took our tips and gave it to the Special Olympics. I've been participating in that for quite a while. The second one's Wood Middle School. I learned that they had a bicycle program and they had their final ride day. So myself and another officer joined them on their ride through the city on the final day. That was a great experience. There's Julie Fanger at the city birthday. This year we did, not only did we do the coffee with a cop, we got a lot of requests to do it after work hours so other folks could come. We did the Kona with a cop, and that was a nice event downtown. The dark picture, it's a little hard to see, but we had a generous donor give us $100 bills to give away during Christmas, and that was one of our random recipients. That's always a fun thing. And then also for the Chelsea Hicks Foundation, which is a children cancer foundation, some of our officers will compete against the fire department. We have yet to win one of those. Those guys have more time to practice. And then in the upper right's National Night Out, very popular in this city and a very, very fun event. You can see a lot of children involved and had a really fun experience for that evening. And then there's just a couple blips I get lots of emails, phone calls, and letters for folks that are pleased with our performance. So I could put a couple clips up there. I love that stuff. We continue our outreach as well with social media. We've got the Facebook and Twitter accounts rolling. And they grow every year, and we try to keep people engaged with a little bit of a behind-the-scenes peek at what we're up to all the time. So that's it. That's the end of the presentation. Does anyone have any questions or anything? I know it was a lot of information in a fairly short amount of time.
That's really Hannah.
Yes. I wanted to ask about when you mentioned a couple of times about door dings and such, are those mostly that and other minor things like that? Do those mostly come in on the non-emergency line, or do they tie up your emergency line? Or
No, those are definitely non-emergency calls.
so they're coming appropriately on the correct line?
That is correct, yes.
And do most people report those because they need to make an insurance claim? Is that what brings those?
That is very often the case, yes.
so that's what drives that. It's not that they think you're actually going to go out and catch someone who opened their door into your car. So,
Yes, that is correct.
yeah, well, that's, I mean, it's too bad there isn't some way to not have that
Take up.
Yeah, I agree, but it's
take
not.
up police resources for things like that, that are, unknown door scratches or whatever.
Yeah, the volume's kind of high on those, but conversely, it's not, I mean, a lot of times we do them very quickly over the phone, so it's not the greatest burden.
Yeah. So do you know what, of all your calls, what percentage of those are coming in on emergency versus non-emergency?
That I don't have measured on here. I can get back to you on that, Counselor. I can certainly
Okay.
look at the difference, but I'd have to get that from the dispatch, and that's not something I have included here.
Yeah. Just wondered.
Counselor Stevens.
So staff may want to join in on this question too. So my schedule changed, so I'm not on Wilsonville Road and the Boones Ferry Road area at commuter times anymore in the afternoons. But when I am, I haven't seen the backup. Has the few techniques we used with the no right turn on red between 4 and 6 and the stacking lane on I-5 and maybe with more police presence, has that helped that situation? And we just don't seem to be talking about traffic like we were 6 months ago, where it was almost every council meeting, traffic was an issue. And now I'm just wondering if it's the second traffic cop that has got people waiting for the red light like they're supposed to and not blocking the intersection, or what? Is it a
It
combination?
would be hard to answer that question.
I would love to.
Possible to
I
know?
think every little bit helps, and I think the actual projects we did down there certainly took more traffic off the local streets, so there's less queuing when there's a backup on I-5.
Because we have that third lane now, they're backing
From an
up there.
enforcement standpoint, that's a
What do you think?
really tough area.
I'd love to take credit for all of that, but I can't. I mean, there was a lot of engineering that went into that. It was a very joint effort that we
Yeah.
all approached. And so, but I too, because I'll drive through there frequently around that time just to kind of really get the eyes on. And it's pretty intermittent that it's really, really blocked up. And generally, again, something on the freeway is really causing that pushback. But oftentimes I drive through and even at rush hour and it's not overwhelming.
It doesn't seem, it just doesn't seem as much of a problem. And I think,
I would agree, it doesn't seem like they're going through the red as,
Right.
continuing on through the yellow and into the red, and you're waiting for,
and the crosstown traffic. And I don't know if that's because law enforcement was giving tickets for people who are blocking the intersections, or we put up, do not block the intersection signs.
We
or-
did some targeted saturation. We paid some overtime to have some folks go down there and do some enforcement.
Yeah, a couple times, but it sort of has to be an ongoing thing, because yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, will you have the bike patrols?
We have bicycle patrols and the motorcycle both.
And the motorcycle, bike in the wintertime too?
No, we're
No.
not that.
Well, that would be over and above.
This isn't Reno.
Yeah, really. Yeah, but it's nice. Bikes can come out now.
Yeah,
Starting
surprising this
today.
early.
Yeah. So, okay, it's great. Your officers, your deputies do a wonderful job.
Well, and I do want to compliment Rob because he has taken the social media stuff to another level since he's been here, and the amount and quantity and quality of public outreach under his supervision has ratcheted up significantly. And Ben Toops is a rock star.
I know.
We keep that guy as long as we can. In terms of citizen interaction, he will go out to someone's house, spend an hour or however much time they need. He's really good. He's
Yeah.
very good for the city and for the department.
Excellent.
I agree.
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks much.
No, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm going to introduce our BHU unit since I'm up here. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Just really briefly, they'll tell you about their program in detail, but like I say, I am a huge fan of this. Dealing with the mentally ill and mental health calls that we get a lot, there is no better partner to have than a clinician who's trained to do so, and they have been a huge asset. I can't say enough good things, but I'll let them give you all the details.
Well, thank you for that. Yeah. And welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, if you'd like to introduce yourself, and I believe you have a presentation.
Yes,
Right.
let me just make sure I know how to bring it up.
Okay.
I think I'm-
I'll start.
Yeah.
I'm Stacy England, and I am the supervisor of the behavioral health unit.
And I'm Valentina Muja. I'm one of the 3 clinicians currently working with the BHU. And again, thank you for having us. This is the second time that we are come here in the past 4 years. And we have had some changes. And so I just want to let you know a little bit what the behavioral health unit is about and what we do and what we don't do.
Thank you.
So, but currently right now there is 6 of us. So we have Stacy is our supervisor. We have 3 clinicians. We're all master level clinicians. And we have 2 peer support. We have the ability to tap into the crisis services at the county. We are part of Clackamas County Behavioral Health. And so with that, we have access to the crisis clinic. And so within the crisis clinic, there are services like case management, intensive support for the people. So we always are trying to work with our partner and the resources that we have. Together, this team has clinical and non-clinical experience. You know, we in the field of trauma, child development, older adult mental health, substance abuse, domestic violence, severe and persistent mental health, dual diagnosis, crisis intervention, and hostage negotiation. We started our partnership in 2015. Well, actually, prior to my arrival, the unit had been for about 6 or 7 years, but I'll speak from 2015, which is when I started with the unit. And we were just responding to Clackamas County Sheriff. Since then, we have expanded, and now we respond to all law enforcement in Clackamas County. So to all the cities and all the smaller unit, the Clackamas County Sheriff Service. Let's see. Yeah. So like I said, the moment is just 3 clinicians, you know, so the 3 clinicians respond for the entire unit, I mean, for the entire county. We kind of a little bit have banker hours, you know. We are there 7 days a week, but we're like 8:30 to 5, 6 o'clock. However, we just provide 24 hours mobile respond as well. So the tricky part is that we respond to law enforcement, right? As we stand right now, we do not have the ability to respond to community as well, because it's just 3 of us. We have incredible law enforcement partners that they know when they need to bring in BHU, and they know when they can handle that without BHU. So right now, they are the one that initiates our ability to respond on scene. Like I said, we respond to, you know, Oregon City PD, Lake Oswego PD, Westland, Canby, Molalla, Milwaukee, Sandy, and Gladstone, as well as, you know, Happy Valley and Damascus, Wilsonville, so everything that is
Oregon State, if they're in the county.
Oregon State, if there something happened in the county. And also we provide support for Portland PD as well. Because we are so close, sometimes our client cross the line and we would never say, nope, that's your client. We're not going to respond. Probably one of the best thing about BHU is that we have no screening out criteria. So if somebody need assistance from us, doesn't matter what age they are, doesn't matter what race they are, doesn't matter, you know, what their issue, whether it's drug related, whether it's mental health, as long as they are in Clackamas County, we will respond. We provide ongoing training. We do presentation like this one, but we also provide training to law enforcement agency. We do the Citizen Academy. We provide the Cadet Academy, the Reserve Officer Academy. So really, we try to reach out to anyone that wants to learn more about behavioral health. We're very heavily involved with the CIT training, which is the training, 40-hour training that all law enforcement are required to attend. And then we provide additional training throughout the years because statute require law enforcement to keep up their mental health training. So we do presentation to the police. I'm sorry, the word is escaping me, to other police precinct, thank you. And we also collaborate with jail, the school, with Adult Protective Services, the Department of Human Services. We attend several multidisciplinary teams. I attend the one at the jail that we do every Tuesday. We collaborate with mental health court. We have a clinician that respond to the school safety threat assessment as well as the adult safety threat assessment. We have another one that does the vulnerable adult. We often go out on call with Adult Protective Services. Anytime that there is, we definitely have seen a huge increase in, aging population that is experiencing mental health. And we also provide consultation with the SWAT team and the OSTA negotiation. All the 3 clinicians at the moment, we have been trained in OSTA negotiation. We complete the same training that the law enforcement officers do so that we can provide that support. Our purpose, this is our mission statement, is that the Behavioral Health Unit mission is to collaborate with law enforcement to provide appropriate intervention and outcomes to those experiencing a mental health crisis. We know that people that are experiencing mental health crisis often end up getting arrested, through fault of their own. Sometimes they don't even have a culpable state of mind. So really our mission, our goal is to divert those people from going to the jail, because we know they end up incurring even more charges because often they're released with a date to appear and they don't have the ability to make that appearance. And all of a sudden they have failure to appear, and then they get sent back to jail, and it's a cycle. And what we were seeing, and what often we're still seeing, is people in the jail that are there for like a 10-day sentence, but because they cannot aid and assist, they often end up doing 180 days because they have to be sent to the state hospital to make sure they can aid and assist. They have to be restored to an ability to aid and assist. And then by the time they come back, they actually are time served. So we really want to avoid, whenever it's possible, for them to go to jail. And we try to send them to the hospital if it's appropriate, or to provide services directly to them where they're at. Meeting our clients where they're at is probably one of the things that we try to do the most. This is a little bit the reason, I know it's a confusing slide, but the reason why this collaboration started between law enforcement and mental health provider is because what they had found is that there are certain interception in the criminal justice system, certain point where if you can connect with the person, you can actually avoid them for them to be arrested and to actually go into the system. And of course, that is crucial point once they get released, allow them to be released and have the support that they need, maybe help them find housing or get them connected to mental health services. That's really important. But it also, if we can avoid from them to get started and get in the process in the system at all, that's ideal. And so that's where the BHU comes in, is just really to try to prevent them from going even before they get booked into the jail. And a little bit to give you an understanding of our stats. So 2015 is when the unit started. I started with the unit in 2015. And during the month of July, we received 5 calls total. And I was like, ooh, that's coming from the jail where my background, and I was seeing 15 clients a day, I was like, five a month, that's pretty slow. So you can see that we started a trend. So in 2016, it's 430. 2017, 596. Last year, we did 930 referrals, okay? And those, a lot of them are face-to-face, some of them are over the phone. So far this year, I actually brought the statistic with me. We're very advanced, we do it on a piece of paper, but we started collecting statistic every 2 months. We do it every 2 months. And so for the March and April, we ended up with 293 referrals. Okay? 69 of those were directly done from CCOM to us. So law enforcement didn't even respond to that or saw that. We just handled that. And those are mostly your frequent callers, the one that they call sometimes 911, sometimes non-emergency, that we're able to talk to them and kind of calm them down so that there is no need for law enforcement to respond to that. And January and February, we did 237. So as it stands right now, we're way over 500 already. So if this is the trend, we're looking that this year we're gonna receive way over 1,000 referrals. So, and that. So what's next for us? Well, we're looking to increase availability, right? To extend the hours of operation. And so we're looking to bring in 2 additional clinicians on a swing shift, 7 days a week, as well as reduce the response time. If we have more people available, we can be, parked and situated closer so that when we're called, we don't have like a 45 minutes drive. We can respond faster. So welcome questions.
Is there any questions from council?
You go ahead.
So you have such a small staff. I don't know how you handle this kind of workload. I mean, just the list of all the things you do, and then on top of that, how many calls you're getting. It's just, must be overwhelming. I mean, I don't know if 2 more staff or how you're ever going to come close to that, but, the miracle workers, the people, it's always underfunded and not enough. But I guess my question is, so you're doing 24/7 on-call care. So is there somebody who takes the pager or the call, and gets the 2 o'clock in the morning law enforcement, you're in crisis? So each of your clinicians takes,
So we rotate it, so once every 3 weeks, we're on call, and we are on call for a week. So we do Wednesday to Wednesday.
Okay.
And Clackamas County contracts out with Lines for Life, and they answered our lines for us.
Okay.
And they are really great, and they're good at triaging what,
What's
we
needed.
need and what we don't need. We really are to be called when there is a need of a face-to-face of an evaluation. However, law enforcement know that they just need to call Lines for Life and say, I need, the after-hour clinician, and there is almost no question asked. We show up and, yeah.
So you should, go ahead. No,
I
go
just
ahead.
want to clarify, that's not restricted to law enforcement. So the BHU is one piece of our array of crisis services, and they work with law enforcement exclusively. But our mental health clinic, we also provide mobile crisis services during the day through the crisis line. And so at night, it just so happens that they get everybody. So they get
okay,
law
switches over.
enforcement and also requests for mobile outreach that come through the crisis line. And
We're
I just-
contractually obligated to respond to JIAC, which is the juvenile detention. So if there is a child that is in detention, we have to respond to them fairly quickly because they can only hold the child for 5 hours. So we respond and we provide an assessment if the child at any point says that they're feeling they want to hurt themselves, or they're suicidal, or they're homicidal. So we respond for that for sure.
There are services available also through our crisis line.
I'm sorry, what did you
Through
say?
our crisis line, there are services available as well. And I want to say these guys, have a really difficult job. So the types of calls they're getting are usually involve someone who's at risk of harming themselves, at risk of harming others, or in a severe psychiatric emergency. And like you mentioned, we partner really well with the walk-in clinic. So whenever possible, we're encouraging folks to head over to our walk-in clinic on 82nd Avenue. And we can help connect people up to that after we've seen them on the street. And they have just a really wonderful array of services there that people can also access.
Yeah, and if they're not connecting to services, that's a great place to start because they really have case managers there and they're able to do a full intake and really find out. There's so much more to the mental health well-being of a person, financial stress, house instability, food instability, drug use, they all add to mental health. And so being able to have someone that can go and sit down with a person and go through everything is really provide a little bit of a sanctuary for the person. We can't fix all the problem right at the moment, but at least we can get the ball going.
Last plug would be, we can only do it with 3 people because of the 3 people we have. They're great.
Yeah, I'm sure. It'd have to be. It'd have to be. So the place on 82nd, is that a county facility?
It is.
That's
It's
county,
a
too?
Clackamas Mental Health Center, or called
that's-
Clackamas
Clackamas.
MHC.
Okay, that's the one on
It used to be
82nd. Okay.
Riverstone or Centerstone.
Right. Yeah, and the other comment I want to make is that I get if you're called out on the mobile unit, this is a huge county. I mean, it goes all the way up to Government Camp.
Yep, but
And
we
then
are
all the
there
way-
often.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So the drive time has got to be.
And it's usually government camp, and then while we finish in there's a call in Westland. It never fails.
A long ways away.
But what we do, we're always available by phone. So deputy officers, they know that they can call us at any time and really ask us, what do you think about this? So often we kind of collaborate over the phone if we cannot be there.
If it's not in a crisis,
I
yeah.
have to tell you, coming to Wilsonville, the traffic is.
Bad? It's
There is
bad.
a stretch of the 205 that really makes it difficult
Oh, yeah.
for us to shorten our response time.
Yeah, the freeways, bad. My comments were about our roads here in Wilsonville, but I know the interstate
Yeah.
issues are beyond our control.
Yeah, that's true.
Thank you.
Can I just ask, Wilsonville has a number of protected or semi-protected, various levels of protected housing for mentally ill, developmentally disabled, and that have different levels of staffing in those facilities. Do you have a working relationship with them, or do you not interact that much because that's a fairly stable population, or are you aware of those facilities?
We have working relationships with most of the facilities. We've all been in it's a small field, so we've all
Yeah.
kind of like been around and made those connections. And also, being part of the Behavioral Health Division, we're part of the division that contracts for some of those types of services. So it's really nice for us to be able to partner with those, with our department and with those agencies. And we don't want to, we want to respect the expertise that are on site, and sometimes we can help. And we can help educate and help build that connection, because we have a different relationship with law enforcement than, folks who aren't embedded within the department. And so sometimes we're able to help with stuff, sometimes we're able to help process, and sometimes they're able to help us and say, you know what, have you tried this resource over there? Or, yeah, we can help you get your person in. So we try to really foster those relationships and make things go as smoothly as possible for our clients and people living in the community.
Okay.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for your presentation and for the work that you do for our community members and community members in the county as a whole. You mentioned the Clackamas County, the crisis line, and I just want to give space if you would like to share that in case we have, or people tracking us online on the YouTube, any space to mention what that crisis line number is, and also where can they find it when we all forget it, and then we find that maybe we want to look it up later on.
Yeah, if you Google Clackamas County Crisis Line, it's going to pop up. It's 503-655.
8585. And it's 24 hours a day. I think, I should have put it on the presentation, my apologies. There is a lot of, you might have seen it, I'm all out of it because I give them out, that are orange cards, and the number is on that as well. But really, Google it it will be the easiest way to get it, unless you have any contact with us, and then you will probably have an orange card on your fridge.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time this evening. Yeah. Okay, next up we have citizen input and community announcements. And this is, let's see. This is an opportunity for visitors to address the city council on items that are not on the agenda. And it's also time to address items that are on the agenda but not scheduled for public hearing. Staff and city council will make every effort to respond to questions raised during citizen input before tonight's meeting ends or as quickly as possible thereafter. And if you could limit your comments to 3 minutes, we'd appreciate that. There are comment cards on the side of the room, so please fill one out if you would like to make comment at this time. I have already received one, so at this point I will call up Jamie Arbun. And if you could introduce yourself state your name and address or say that it is on the record, then we will have that all in our public record for the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, City Council. I've been a resident of Wilsonville for over 25 years, but this is my first City Council meeting. So nice to meet all of you. My name is Jamie, and I'm a Wilsonville resident since 1994 with my family. And I come before you today slightly emotional, so I apologize if my tears flow through on a subject incredibly important to both my livelihood and my well-being. For an extra amount of impact, I'd like to offer to all of you that I am currently undergoing chemotherapy for breast cancer treatment. And today, I want to talk with you about the impact that cannabis has had on my life. Cannabis is something that's quite controversial, but in an effort to make what I could turn into a 3-hour presentation into less than now 2 minutes, I would like to just point a couple of things that I know are very important to the city and to the residents of Wilsonville when considering on lifting the ban. In 2016, Wilsonville did allow its residents to vote on this matter, and it did not pass, and the matter was put aside for 2 years. We are now beyond that 2-year point, and I would kindly ask for the council to revisit this matter because it also affects both our aging community, senior citizens, but those of us that are medically necessary as well, having to travel quite extensive distances to get our medication, not to mention the money that the city is losing out on. A couple of things that are very important to the city members are crime rates and cost of, what's this going to do to the value of my home. And I would like to point you guys to some very interesting studies. Clever, a real estate group, did a survey in 2018, and they found that home values increased between 2014 and 2019 by more than $23,000 per home in all the cities that allowed recreational and medical cannabis. The other item that comes up is public safety. Are there items that, increased crime in areas that you allow cannabis? And I would like to point to additional studies that say, in fact, the opposite has happened. I managed, before I had to step aside for breast cancer treatment, I managed an award-winning best dispensary in the state in Beaverton, and I had to step aside due to my current medical issues. And I would like to point out that we worked with the city police departments, and the state has made it a requirement for an excessive amount of security footage, and that security footage was able to be used by the Beaverton Police Department to catch a local person who had been going through trash and causing some nuisances in the area. So actually, hopefully I can get just a couple more minutes. The cannabis community has come together to help increase public safety. And lastly, I would just like to point out that on our current Facebook page in the Wilsonville City Council, we've got teachers and school districts short of funds and losing days, and Wilsonville is currently saying no to 3% of $65 million. That was the total sales of cannabis in the state of Oregon. I would just like to point out that the current climate allows for Americans approximately 70% approve it, and I would like the council to reconsider wording there. If we do visit this again on a vote, I believe the reason it didn't pass was due to the wording on the ballot. Instead of stating on the ballot, should we keep the ban, and vote yes as a vote for no on cannabis, I would ask the council to reword it and ask the citizens of Wilsonville, should we once again consider allowing cannabis in our communities? And I believe that you will see a very different vote. Thank you very much for your extra time today.
Thank you.
Any
Thank you for
questions?
coming. Any questions from council or comments? No?
Okay, thank
Any
you.
comments from staff at this time? No? Okay. Thank you for coming. Okay, that brings us to mayor's business. And while our mayor is currently doing some business in Washington, D.C., and hosting some meetings there, We do have one item that we would like to address. Mayor Knapp has left us with a letter and a recommendation for an appointment to the Wilsonville Budget Committee. And this was included in our council packet for this evening. And the recommendation is for the appointment of Daphne Lagarza, I hope I said that correctly. And so I wonder if there is a motion.
Your Honor, I would move to ratify the recommendation of the mayor in the appointment of Daphne Lagarza to the Budget Committee for a term beginning 5/6/19 to 12/31/19.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 3-0.
And we might invite her up.
Exactly. I think before we move on from this item, though, we do have Ms. Lagarza in the audience, and I would like to invite her to the microphone, introduce herself, and perhaps give a little background on what you're bringing to this position. We're very pleased and excited to have you as part of the Budget Committee.
Thank you so much for having me this evening.
And is your mic on?
Those are always on.
Those are, oh, good.
Can you hear
Excellent.
me?
You just sounded a little
Talk into it.
quiet, but that's fine. Yeah. Thank you.
First off, I'd like to thank Mayor Knapp and the council for this opportunity. My husband and I relocated to the Pacific Northwest about 3 years ago, and we chose Wilsonville as our home because of everything it has to offer. Wilsonville has great access to public transportation. It's centrally located for us. Wonderful outdoor amenities and just a great, diverse, vibrant community. So basically everything we were looking for in a community. Prior to relocating to Wilsonville, I spent the last 26 years of my work experience at a large local municipality. And currently I work with the Travel Information Council, overseeing the operations and management of many of the rest areas throughout the state of Oregon. And basically, a lot of that experience has resulted in my working with both capital and operational budgets. And most recently, I have 2 adult children who have left the home to study at school. So that's freed up a lot of my time, and I feel like it's a perfect opportunity for me to be able to engage with the community and also give back to the community. And that's why, in a nutshell, I'm very thankful for this opportunity. And I look forward to working with the council, all the budget committee members, and the City of Wilsonville staff in my new appointment as a budget committee member.
Thank you.
I did ask our finance director to reach out to you to set up just a little time for orientation before we kick off the budget process. So if you haven't heard from her, you will soon.
Perfect.
Right.
Thank you.
Those meetings will be starting very soon. Yes.
10 days.
May 16th.
10 days. 10 days. And the binder is this thick.
Yeah.
Sorry. Wonderful. I don't want to scare you away.
The orientation, Kathy will do a good job of just talking about our different funds and everything and answer any questions you have.
Excellent.
Great.
Terrific.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Can I just ask you one question in your other job? These just came out. How soon will they be in the rest areas?
I might have to get back to you on that. Let me get
I
that
mean, I'm hoping they will be. Anyway, I will bring it up. This is, since this is OTIC's program, also the historic markers and heritage trees, and I was glad to see that it just came out and we're in it. It only comes out like every other year. So I'm hoping it will be in the Boones Ferry, in the French Prairie rest areas whenever it gets out. So, because this is the only one I have. Never mind. This had nothing to do with budget.
Well, I can definitely check on that for you.
Or I could call Annie. Anyway, Thank you.
Well, we'll be seeing you again soon, and thank you very much for your service on that committee.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, now we have counselor comments, and I will just, I guess, quickly mention that April 29th, I was in attendance for the Willamette Intake Facility Commission meeting, which I served the alternate for that group, and that was a fruitful meeting with the WIF Commission Board. But I want to turn it over to my fellow counselors here to perhaps mention events that are upcoming or activities that they have been involved with. Go ahead.
Okay.
Take it away.
Okay. First off, before, because I never know when we'll leave, but I did want to, so we didn't seem entirely non-responsive, I wanted to say to Jamie that I appreciate her bringing the issue up, because when we last addressed it, was when the marijuana issue had just passed, and we were really uncertain about what was going to happen, and at the time we discussed it would be something that would be good to come back and revisit in a few years once some other cities had some more experience with it. So it's not that we hadn't figured that it would come back around at some point. So we're not
Thank you.
not being responsive. Anyway, the main thing I was going to say is just to thank the staff and all the people who came out for our heritage tree dedication. So we had, and we're on the cover of Deep Roots with the Willamette River cable trees. And we had a beautiful dedication and some excellent speakers, and the Rainbow Bee was there, a 1937 tugboat at the city dock, and a lot of people had a great time talking to the guys we had who used to work the river with the log rafts. And those cable trees we have 2 of them. They now have their state dedication plaques on them down by the river. They are the trees on the bank that they used to tie the log rafts up to. They used to cable the log rafts to them. But I was truly amazed, because I just got this in the mail, that they got this out this fast and we're in it. I was sure we would have missed it, but Wilsonville has the cable trees and the RV short tree, so we have 2 trees. I think that's the same number as the city of Portland. So it's we're on the map in this.
Yeah, that's right.
And but the staff did a great job. Zoe did a great job leading the way, as did Bill, and all the parks crew got everything set for that event, and people were very impressed. Our visitors from Salem and Portland were there, and they were very impressed with how Memorial Park looks, and how our river frontage looks. So we took them by surprise. They hadn't been there before, that we had this beautiful facility. So anyway, that's what I was just going to say about that.
Thank you.
And
Yeah.
Counselor Stevens.
And it was a beautiful day that day, too, so it helped that it wasn't raining.
no, it was a beautiful, beautiful day. Perfect day, perfect weather.
Yes. So I attended the French Prairie Forum meeting. That is a group of local municipalities that are in the French Prairie area. So we're the farthest northern city that participates. And the topic was transit. So it was Nicole Hendricks from our Smart Transit system was there. She's the transit management analyst for SMART. And then Woodburn was there, and the Chariots, a regional transit planner for Chariots, and then Canby. And there was a lot of discussion about how to get transit, especially in an area where, the towns are pretty far apart. It's not like Gladstone, Milwaukee, Portland. It's, there's a lot of county area, rural area in between, so that people can use it efficiently. And it is challenging, to, especially with Canby, that has a fairly small, I think they have 1 or 2 buses there, so that's hard for them to be able to connect with what SMART is doing and then what Wood Chariots is doing. But just having everybody at the table and being able to talk about what those challenges are is a step forward to being able to have that whole system and all of us work more efficiently. So that was a really good meeting. I'm glad those are still held. They've been going on for those northern French Prairie area meetings of those towns, St. Paul, even Donald comes to those. They're, those small areas, but they're integral part of, this whole area. So their challenges are often mirror our challenges in a lot of ways. So I went to that, and then I also attended a really great, I'm always a library promoter, and they do the movies, first Friday of the month movies. There was a great documentary called Free Solo about the fellow who free climbed El Capitan. Yeah, is what? It's great. It's great. He's crazy. He's crazy. But it was a very well done documentary. So that was last Friday night, and I recommend it. Anybody picking that up at Netflix or someplace, if you can see that movie. Yeah, it was. City manager loved it too. Yeah, it was really great. That's it. That's it. The other things. Cool.
But I have something else
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't.
that I should have said.
Okay.
This Saturday, this coming Saturday is Bulky Waste Day.
Hey, bulky. It's a popular one.
So if you have bulky waste, and who doesn't, you have an opportunity to get rid of it practically for free. Are you supposed to donate to the food bank? Yes.
Community sharing. Yeah.
For community sharing, but that's at Republic Services over there on Ritter Road. But also, they're having Hazardous Waste Day, and that will be here at the Wilsonville City Hall parking lot. And that you can bring in any old pesticides or just unknown, I don't know what's in this thing, that you don't want to have anymore, cleaning products, whatever, that you're no longer using. And you just drive through the turnaround and you don't have to get out of your car. They will take it away and appropriately dispose of it. And I don't know if does that include also drugs?
No, I don't think so.
That's a separate event.
Separate event?
Right.
Okay. So
National prescription drug.
prescription
take-back
drug
day.
take-back day, yeah.
We do have a facility
drop-off,
over here at Public
yeah.
Works that people can bring those to, though.
Oh, okay.
But they do take batteries. Hazardous waste takes batteries. That's where we
And
drop
batteries,
off.
yes. Old batteries would be good, too. Yes, so keep those things out of the landfill, and you can throw your old couches over at Republic Services that are not hazardous, your non-hazardous couches.
Okay, thank you. And that brings us to the consent agenda. If staff would read the items of the consent agenda at this time.
Resolution number 2745, a resolution of the City of Wilsonville authorizing the city manager to execute a contract with Structured Communication Systems, Inc. for telecommunications replacement project. Resolution number 2746, a resolution of the City of Wilsonville accepting the jurisdictional surrender for a portion of Ritter Road by Clackamas County pursuant to ORS 373270.
Your Honor, I move to approve the consent agenda as read.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion passes 3-0. Which will then bring us to new business. And the first item is resolution number 2747. Of our report from staff.
Resolution number 2747, resolution to allocate community enhancement funds for fiscal year 2019-2020.
Good evening again. I'm Zoe Monahan. I am the assistant to the city manager for the city of Wilsonville. We went over the project allocation for the community enhancement programs a little bit earlier, so I will give you a high-level overview of this program. So these items in front of you are the recommended projects that were recommended from the Community Enhancement Committee for the City Council to evaluate this year. The 6 projects listed: the Boones Ferry Primary Stormwater and Education, the Create a Historical Archives, and Street Tree Infill and Wilsonville Smart Flower Baskets are recommended to be funded in the 2019-2020 fiscal year, and the Graham Oaks Willamette Way pedestrian project is recommended to be funded immediately. As we discussed earlier, there is a recommendation from staff to revise the historical archives to 11,319 rather than the 6,925, based on the revised materials that were submitted from the Historical Society. So that would be a total request for the whole program at $75,391.40. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have regarding these projects.
And could you just explain again the source of these funds?
Oh, absolutely. So the city has an intergovernmental agreement with Metro, and we receive funds from tonnage that's processed in the city. So every ton processed in the city, we receive $1 for that. Generally, we receive about $80,000 a year, and currently we're expecting about $70,000 in the next upcoming fiscal year. And the total here is over that $70,000 that we're expecting, and that's because we have some funds that were previously unallocated from previous years, so they've just kind of sat there, and they're seeking to allocate them this year. Based on the funds that we have available, we are not allocating all the funds we expect to receive in the upcoming year, in addition to those funds we already have available.
So it's Metro Solid Waste, tipping fees is what we're coming from.
All right, any questions? Actually, now it just occurred to me, so the 80,000 decreasing to 70,000, kind of, that's what we're anticipating.
So-
Does that mean we're creating less garbage?
No, they had some
No.
problems with some machinery, and I think those are being remedied if they haven't already, so we should be back up to the 80,000. And the
Okay.
80,000 is a cap set by Metro.
Okay,
It's not that they couldn't do more processing there, they probably could if Metro allowed it.
okay,
And for this year's budget, because when we were looking at this, so this process started in January, and when we were starting to look at how much we expected for the year and for budgeting purposes, we had projected that it would be a lower number. It could come in higher for next year, but we didn't want to
sure,
expect a higher amount and then not have that and over allocate.
yeah, that makes sense. Okay, is there any other questions, comments? Is there a motion?
So I move to approve resolution number 2747. Is that the right one? Yeah, 2747.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor? Please say aye.
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 All opposed? None.
So
Passes.
just a comment that I want to.
We forgot the discussion.
Discussion, okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
We'll rewind and do discussion.
We could do it afterwards.
Yeah.
So I just appreciate that, all the work Zoe's done on this, and that, and I really appreciate that we have enough money to do all the projects that we want to do. This has been going on for 3 years now, and it's really been nice to see the see people come to us, I know a lot of this was staff-driven because they see need around the city, but the first year, there were quite a few community members who came up and said, this would really be a great idea to do this project. So it's the fact that we can enhance our community and meet the criteria and be able to have, I hope this funding stays. I know Councilor Dirksen mentioned, that there might be changes to this program, and I hope not, because it's been really a benefit for our town to be able to implement these projects and not have it and I do want to tell people that the pedestrian pathway that is partially funded here, it's not all funded, but these funds were able to help that happen, is almost near completion. And that's a much safer on our west side of our city where it crosses over to Graham Oaks from the residential area there. It's now a much safer area. We did have a fatality there, pedestrian fatality there about 3-4 years ago. And so now it's nice to see that that's a safer crossing through these funds. Thanks. That's all.
And one of the projects this year is kind of building on work from a previous year, correct? The Historical Society.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
They hired the archivist.
Right.
To do the work, and now they're going to take what he to the first funded project was to take all that stuff in the library and up in the attic of the library and figure out what we have. And there's some like 6,000 different pieces there, of which about 3,000 are photographs, historical photographs. But then there's other things up in the library. So he was able to catalog all that stuff, but now this piece is to get a database going, so you can put all that information into a program and then be able to search. So, and then build on that. So it builds our and it's nice that Charlotte's been involved with this Wilsonville Historical Society for a long time, and so to have people, that whole volunteer organization to be reinvigorated just recently, where it went through sort of a slow period. And this is what comes of it, because you have some funding to do some cool things too. So, yeah, that's great.
Well, thank you, and thanks for that additional context there too. So we'll fast forward again to passes 3-0.
Passes
Okay.
3-0.
Thank you.
Just to clarify.
Just to clarify. Okay. And our next resolution number 2748.
Resolution number 2748, a resolution of the City of Wilsonville approving completion of the acquisition of Wilsonville Town Center Lot 1.
Good evening, Council. My name is Zach Weigel. I'm the Capital Projects Engineering Manager for the city, and tonight before you is Resolution 2748 regarding the purchase of the Wilsonville Town Center Lot 1 property, which is also referred to as Pad A. Oops. So where we are at today, or what's happened in the past on this property, so council authorized staff to enter into a purchase and sale agreement for the property that's highlighted in yellow there on the map. And this was done on November 19th in 2018. And as part of that purchase and sale agreement, there was some due diligence that the city had time to complete. And those included environmental assessment of the property, which has been completed, and there were no items of concern found. Also, an opportunity for the city to perform a boundary survey of the property. And as we got more into that, we found that there was a more recent plat done of that property, so there really wasn't a need to do that work. And then one of the last items of that due diligence period was removing some of the covenants that could pose restrictions on some of the intended uses of the property. So where we're at with that is a number of those restrictions have been removed. Staff is still continuing to work to remove a few more of those. But we feel that there's at this point that there's enough security to move forward with the purchase of the property. So the action that we're recommending tonight is for approving the acquisition of the property. Sorry about that. I also wanted to talk a little bit about the purpose of the intended purpose of the property. There's two main projects that this purchase of this property would support, and that includes serving as the east landing for the I-5 bike and pedestrian bridge, and then also having some of that land available to serve as the gateway to the town center that was identified in the town center planning process. So the I-5 bike ped bridge is a project that goes back, has some history to it. It was first identified in the 2006 bike ped master plan as a need to provide safe crossing of the interstate. And then in 2013, with the transportation system plan update, it was identified as a high priority project in that plan. And really what it does is like I said, it provides a safe crossing of I-5 that is away from motor vehicle conflicts. So right now there's a lot of, the main crossings are at interchanges or on busy roads. So also the bike ped project would increase access to transit by directly connecting the town center and the West Smart Central Station across I-5. Also, we have a comprehensive plan goal of increasing different travel modes, increasing the connectivity, and this bridge goes a long way of connecting those trails and pedestrian and bike connections. So also the town center plan also kind of raises the bar of this project as it's a key framework project in that plan. So a lot of history to why this project or why this property is important to the bike ped project. And then timing, why do we need to purchase this property now? And really it started about a little over a year ago where we were starting to develop the scope of work for designing the bridge project. And we started seeing development applications happen on Pad B, which is the property to the north of the property in question. You look at the cursor here, this triangular property is what we're referring to as Pad B. So, and now you can see that there's actually a development being constructed on that property. And then we were also starting to see some developer interest on Pad A. And there was also this uptick in just development in general in the town center. So as we were starting to develop the scope of work for designing the bridge, it was like, oh, we're starting to run out of places to put this bridge landing. We should start taking a look at, what options are available, and that's where the purchase and sale agreement for this Pad A came from. So, and then another reason for the timing of this project is really the Metro. We received a grant for design for this project from Metro through the Regional Flexible Funds Program. And as part of that grant program, we have a certain timeline that we have to spend that money and design the bridge project. So that needs to be completed by September of 2021, or we would need to return those grant funds to Metro. So really, we need to get started on design. And what the purchase of this property does is secures that what, it helps guide the scope of work for that bridge project and how it's designed, but it also secures property for that bridge landing. And, if we were to not purchase the property at this point, then, and if somebody were to develop it, it doesn't leave the city with many options of undevelopable property to design the bridge on, so. And then again, talking about the town center plan as a framework project and helping to start implementation of the town center plan. So our recommendation is to approve Resolution 2748, which will acknowledge completion of the due diligence period and approve acquisition of the Wilsonville Town Center Lot 1 property. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Councilor Stevens.
So could you talk a little bit more, please, about the money that we received a grant from, is it Metro? No,
Right, right through the regional flexible funds.
Regional Flexible Funds. And that if the design work doesn't, and how much was that?
It was for $1.55 million.
1.55 million for the design work,
Yep.
right?
Fund exchange, right?
Yeah, and we did go through a fund exchange process with another city project.
With project.
To remove the federal requirements of those grant funds.
So you didn't have to meet oh, that's right. I remember that was a long time ago that we talked about whether or not we should do that or not, yeah.
I think it
And
was
it made
during
sense to
last
do that.
summer, yeah.
Because they were so restrictive.
Right.
Right. So, but if the design work doesn't move forward, we have to pay back 55 million?
correct,
$1.5 million, yeah, okay. So we don't want to do that. Okay. And the design work, the land is critical to the design work because you have to know where your landing is. How can you design it if you don't know where it's going to be? That's right?
Right,
Okay.
right. And like I said, there's limited opportunity outside of this property.
Out
I mean,
there.
you would really be looking at impacting developed properties.
Yeah. Tearing something else down, making somebody tear something. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay.
I would just add quickly for the record, because it's not in the resolution, and your record from November includes the purchase and sale agreement, but for the price on the property is $1,512,000, and our anticipated closing date is on May 9th, so we'd close this week.
This week, okay.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I move to approve resolution number 2748.
I'll second.
And now, is there any discussion?
Well, is that okay? Go ahead. Okay. So I would just say, I know that as we'll be dealing with the second reading on the town center plan, which was 2 years plus so in the making, and countless meetings and input from the community. And I know I'd asked at least once, probably a couple times, of staff, what the input from the community members was on this bridge particular. And the answer was, which I was heartened to hear, was that it kept rising to the top as a critical piece of getting that town center up and going, that plan up and going, and invigorating the redevelopment of town center, which I think is really critical to the viability of the economy of Wilsonville, because it's time, that development was done 30, 40 years ago, and it's time to be, get a major facelift. So this bridge will be a critical piece, I think, because it will stimulate that activity, or at least help stimulate it. But it was encouraging to me to hear that there was so much community input and support for the bridge as well during those interviews and all those community meetings and surveys and open houses and picnics and everything else that went on. So I'm glad we're moving this forward, because if we don't get this land, that bridge doesn't happen. And our our residents, and I think our business community too wants this to happen.
Yes, and I would agree with that. I think it also can be an iconic kind of look to it when it's designed. I hope that that the design is, I don't want to copy Woodburn's overcrossing, but Woodburn has done a nice job with color and just kind of rethinking something besides a cage crossing the freeway. And I think it could be very attractive for the city of Wilsonville and especially for town center and an attractant, and make it very fast and easy to get for pedestrians and bicyclists to get to town center from Villebois especially, or anywhere on the west side. So important project.
Now, one of the things that we heard about, numerous times during the planning process was having spaces that felt vibrant, that had people moving about in the area, in the physical space, and having a system that allows for walking and biking and that sort of different types of movement and transportation and people moving around. And it seems that this could both be a landmark and really important in facilitating that kind of vibrancy that we're looking for in town center. So
I have one more thing to say.
yeah,
Okay.
go ahead.
So I know we talk a lot about town center, and it is important. But the other piece of this is that it's another way for people to come from west and go to work in that industrial area where, and right now, we made a commitment from the west to go get somebody to their job, to their place of employment within 10 minutes of when the train comes in. And, we have mass transit, but now they can take their bikes or walk if they're over on the other side. So it's also a commuter bridge. It's, I can see that happening a lot as more and more people bike to work. And if they're coming in on west from Beaverton or Target, wherever they're coming from, and then can get over to, or students to Oregon Tech, OIT, or over to, Xerox, wherever, over there, or Cisco, those kinds of places that are growing. So, yeah, so it's not a one-way over to town center and then you're there. People go the other way too, because there's stuff happening on the west side that people want to come to. It's not just there. So anyways,
Critical
thanks.
link.
A critical link, yeah.
Okay.
Well, excellent. So no further discussion, I'm assuming? Okay. So we have a motion and a second, and we've had our discussion. So now I will say, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? The vote passes 3-0. Which brings us to continuing business.
Continuing in business, resolution
Thank
number
you. Sorry.
835. A resolution of the City of Wilsonville adopting the Wilsonville Town Center Plan as a sub-element of the comprehensive plan and amending the text of the Wilsonville comprehensive plan map, zoning map, and development code. This is the second reading.
No staff presentation.
Is this a resolution or ordinance?
This ordinance.
Yeah. that's what I thought. You said.
Did I say resolution?
Yeah.
Sorry. Yes, second reading ordinance. And there have been no,
Further
there's no
communication.
additional public information that's come into the city attorney or to the planning department.
So is there any discussion?
I think, well, I will go ahead and move. I would move to adopt ordinance number 835 on second reading.
Second?
And then as far as discussion, I'll just say, and you've been very involved in this process, but we have all been involved in this process for multiple years now. And this is the culmination of that. And so which is why we don't need yet another presentation on it.
No more.
But, so I'm just mentioning that it's, this has been
Yeah.
done a lot,
Yeah.
so.
And I'll just say, once again, thank you to the staff.
Yes.
And, you know, Ms. Spatial and all her helpers who pulled this together, because it was a monumental task. And so it's, and now the fun part starts, right? Yeah, the planning is done, and now we'll get going. So, thank you.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed being involved in this planning process, but specifically watching staff facilitate the involvement of so many community members, so many different people involved and kids involved and, you know, all facets of our community involved in this plan. And that is a really powerful thing. So I'm very excited for what is before us and what's to come with this work. And now I believe we do a roll call vote for this one. Is that, which requires this, I think, too. Okay. So roll call vote.
Counselor Stevens?
Yes.
Counselor Lehan?
Yes.
Council President Ackerval?
Yes. And then, do I do that?
I
At
think
this
you
point?
absolutely should.
It says on my screen. Yeah. There we go. That has been, you know, duly passed 3-0 with much celebration.
Yes, yes.
Thank you to everyone. Thank you. Okay. I'm moving on to city manager's business.
You can gavel me too if you want.
Oh, yeah?
Counselor.
Yeah? Okay.
A couple of did you know items. Did you know that apparently there is no valid master plan for the Aurora State Airport? We found that out today through a public records.
Say that again?
No valid master plan for the Aurora State Airport. We just kind of found that out today. So we're trying to figure out what that means for the grant application that they've submitted. I don't know what it means from a state standpoint or a federal standpoint, but I can't imagine it would be a good thing. So we'll find out more information and get back to you. And another did you know item, did you know that Damascus is still a city?
What? No?
So the road to Damascus is fraught with peril. That's what I wanted to let you know. And then the last thing I want to let you know is because you're going to see them out there on the 14th is TVFNR's Fill the Boot campaign. Yeah. They do have their ODOT approved safety plan and they've worked with our engineering staff, so should be all dialed in. Okay. They know what to do and what not to do.
May 14th?
That is the date that I was given, yes. Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Legal business?
Actually do have something tonight, quickly. A Kinder Morgan update. So for the first time, Kinder Morgan is going to do their regional disaster drill exercise at Wilsonville, and it's going to be on the 25th and 26th. 25th is pre-planning, 26th is an actual drill simulation, and you are all invited to participate in it as our state representatives, and I'll be sending out notices to everybody as I get more on the time. And then I'm still working with Kinder Morgan on this, but I think on the 27th, they are going to stay in town and they're going to be available to do, a little public presentation here at City Hall on the pipeline, what it does and where it is and how it works. So because I know there's been a lot of concern with people in town and I think it's a good time for them. They'll be here anyway, and we'll have just done this drill to talk about what's in place in terms of safety. And then finally, they did come in and met with planning staff, and I sat in on the meeting too, to find out what kind of applications or building permits they needed to get to move forward, to change out our manual shutoff valve to an automatic shutoff valve, and also to improve or to enhance the safety safety surroundings by that valve. It will stay in the same place, but it will be significantly upgraded. So it's good progress with Kinder Morgan, and we'll look forward to having them here, and hopefully some or all of you can meet with them and be a part of the drill. I think they're also going to be looking at maybe placing some additional safety equipment over at the water treatment plant, just in the event something would happen. But
And that's May 25?
June.
June.
June 26th.
June 25, 26.
25 is pre, 26
Yeah.
is drill, 27th is hopefully a little meeting with the citizens, whoever would like to come. So, yeah.
Okay,
Excellent.
perfect.
Thank you.
That's it.
Then we're done.
Well, you
Okay,
can-
so
You can adjourn us and
You can
gavel
say-
us out at 8:41.
8:41. Thank you all.
We're adjourned.
There you go.
See?
Aw.
See?